Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat!
Cocaine.
Durfing.
What is up, everybody? You are listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie, the official K-State representative on the College Huddle. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, the good chef, Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt Marchesini. Tonight, we are previewing the unfortunate matchup between one team with a 1-3 record and one team with a 3-0 record. And if you would have surveyed us at the beginning of the season, I guess we're just doing this again.
Let's go. Turn it off.
I literally turned off the fader, but didn't.
Oh, you apparently didn't.
Anyway,
you started that in the middle of the song. I don't know.
We are taking it back. We're reeling it back in. We are previewing two teams that, if you would have surveyed us at the beginning of the season, guessing which one was 1-3 and which one was 3-0, I think none of the four of us would have thought that K-State would be the 1-3 team. But we are joined by friend of the pod and recurring guest, Dolly Drama, Knights 247 and Sons of UCF contributor. Dolly, welcome back to Cocaine Willie.
Fellas, I can't believe it's really been 2 years since the last time we did this. You guys are the first friends foraying into the Big 12. So, Fireball Matt, Bob, Chef, let's run it back. I would not believe that UCF has matched your win total by 3 times over before the time we played. So, here we are.
When you frame it that way, that really, we're twisting the knife there. Before we get into the episode, we are going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Auntie Mae's Parlor. That beer crack is sponsored by Auntie Mae's, located at 616 North 12th Street in the heart of Aggieville in Manhattan, Kansas. We had a ton of UCF fans listen to this preview 2 years ago when we had Dolly on last. I think 2,000 or 3,000 people tuned into that show. So if any of you UCF fans are going to be making the trek to Manhattan, like Dolly will be this weekend, I don't know if I'm breaking news there or not, but make sure you stop by Auntie Mae's. They are the go-to destination in Aggieville for all things drinking or not drinking. If you're not drinking, they have events like live music, comedy, and all sorts of other events. And if you are drinking, just stop by, as always. But they've got Trivia Smackdown. That's Wednesday, September 24th. We've got Pride Night at Annie Mae's on September 25th, Thursday, Pride in the Parlor. And then Saturday, September 27th, we've got Rex Hobart and the Misery Boys making their appearance at Auntie Mae's as well. So go to their website, www.auntiemays.com, to see a full list of their upcoming events. And if you're stopping by, we've got our Wildcat Country Let's Ride koozies for sale there in the bar. So tell your bartender, hey, I want one of these koozies. They'll hook you up and sport it. Take a picture of yourself with that koozie. If you're going to the game, if you're anywhere else, koozies in the wild. Let's get that thing going. But always doing cool stuff at Annie Mae's. Check them out, 616 North 12th Street in Aggieville, and be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. All right, Dolly. Again, it's been 2 years. A lot has happened in those 2 years. A lot has happened in this past week. Before we talk the team and the big picture, I do want to take a moment. Obviously, rest in peace, Sean Clark, offensive line coach for UCF, tragically passed away on the 21st, it sounds like. That creates a completely different dynamic, I think, in some cases for this game, where, the offensive line, the team for UCF is coming on into their first game really since he passed. And that could present some, emotional adversity that they're facing, leadership adversity that they're facing. I'm not sure what the coaching staff shakeup is going to look like with someone maybe stepping up and taking on coaching the offensive line. But I guess just to throw it back to you, what do you think the impact is of Sean Clark's passing on this team? And obviously, if you have any words that you want to say to talk about Sean Clark, I know his tenure at UCF for this role that he had there was short, but feel free to take this time to share whatever thoughts you have on Sean Clark.
Yeah, really sad week in Night Nation. I mean, when Scott Frost was kind of putting together his staff, Sean Clark was one of those dudes that I was like, wow, that is a really nice piece, like an A+ hire. He spent some time as a head coach over at App State. He knew ball. He was an offensive line guy, and when he was kind of putting things together, he was attacking the portal and getting his guys, people that he wanted. So news, he has a medical emergency, and then who stepped up was Alex Vera, was his offensive quality control coach that he kind of handled with him at App State. And then he was also kind of a grad assistant with him as well. So he brought him down here, and it was just kind of just business. Best game that I've seen the offensive line kind of put together. They've been getting better. There was some good news that he was kind of stable and all that. So to get that news on Monday was kind of really sobering, just to kind of see how fleeting things are. The outpouring of people across the college football community has been insane. Marty Smith, old players that he had at App State, industry people just across the board, conference, foes with Satterfield being an App State. Just really put that, we go crazy for these 18 and 20 irons on a Saturday afternoon, but it's really, the impact that you guys have beyond the field. And it was really touching. It's a big distraction. I think our Paul Rubel, it's like kind of our 6-year senior, kind of an anchor of a leadership position on the offensive line. 6'9" from Germany. He put together this Instagram story, man. It was just some footage of an earlier game this year of them just looking over a play, and they were just kind of smiling, cracking up. It's like things can just happen like that. It's so fleeting, man. He's 50 years old. He leaves back some young kids as well, and his wife as well. So we have some things that we're trying to put together for them, for Night Nation, kind of a meal train as well, just kind of help the family just get some grub and not have to think about that. But I'm sure there'll be some services and things like that there'll be an outpouring as well. But really rough week. Rest in peace, prayers to his family, keeping them in our thoughts, and God bless his memory. I think it was a little bit of time that we had him here, but his impact was huge. And if these guys can kind of get behind that and the concepts, what they have, Coach Alex Vera, that's a guy that he was hand selected by him. And I'm a man of faith. There's some certain situations that you just kind of come into that things could be not meant for a reason, but things could just line up. That maybe this is something that he can take this as an opportunity and kind of honor his mentor as well. So I think it'll be a distraction. Offensive line was the position that I was worried about to begin the year, but I've seen them getting better every week. I definitely want to see what they look like on the road. Then I get, it's going to be, there was adversity throughout the entire week when he was in the hospital. And I know the team kind of pushed behind it as well. So just thinking about their family, hopefully the boys can get their head right, for the 3 hours of the game, and kind of take the life lessons that he imparted on them and do some good.
I love it. I guess another question. So burying the lead a little bit, obviously one of the big changes that happened this offseason is you bring back Scott Frost, and he's in his second stint there at UCF after, a pretty dramatic failure at Nebraska, to put it lightly. But obviously returning back to where he had the most success in his career as a coach. So I guess just take a moment, share a little bit more about what it's like having Scott Frost back in the fold there at UCF, and then some of the talent he brought around him on the coaching staff with, Alex Grinch, who's a guy that's very familiar to Big 12 fans and K-State fans, and then Steve Cooper on the offensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, I think, it was so funny. If you would have told us in December that like Gus Malzahn would have gone to Florida State to be the offensive coordinator and Scott Frost was coming back, we'd have been like, dude, this is ridiculous. I think it was like the only guy outside of like Nick Saban wants to get out of retirement or just like a home run hire that, that galvanized the fan base. I mean, we were dead in the water, man. I remember it was my birthday. It was Black Friday, 4-8, like, Utah, ends up 5-7, and we end up like, losing to them. And it was just kind of like, what are we doing in this conference right now? There's no identity. We started the year out 3-0. We had a big road win to start last year against TCU. TCU ends up reeling off like 8 wins for the season. So it's like, obviously what happened? We get deflated with like big noon kickoff that Colorado's in town, just an abomination of a game. Then we go to Florida, Gus Malzahn's been reeling off like we'll play anybody in a parking lot. And it just doesn't happen. This offense is guru. And it was just like a really bad Like it was looking like a nasty divorce towards the end, but he gifted us a buyout clause that he kind of walked away, and we didn't have to pay him the $12 million. He went to Florida State. He got a landing spot. That first week of college football too was a little weird, and we're just like, maybe we were the problem. He reels off a huge win against Alabama in Tallahassee. And then we're watching that Scott Frost, that first game, against Jack State. And we're just like, okay, this is the place that got depleted, that a lot of their players left with Rich Rod over to West Virginia. This is a G5 school. We've kind of been recruiting pretty, at a Power 4 level for the last 2 or 3 years. Why is this a game? And then Tayven Jackson kind of comes into the end. And, the thing about Scott Frost, I just think the vibes are back. I think he just kind of has an energy that matches what we are. Chip on our shoulders, underdogs, a little bit snake bitten, and just kind of want to have a chance at redemption. And I think that's perfectly what Scott is. You can't blame him why he left to Nebraska. That's your alma mater. His old man that passed got to see his grandchildren and his son be the head coach in Lincoln. But I think, on the way down, I don't think he would have taken another college football job. I also don't think there's a lot of places in the country that would have taken him, in the Power 4 ranks. I think he was sniffing around some ideas, maybe like an FAU or maybe like, South Florida as well. If something like that came into the mix. There was even some rumblings of him being an OC under Gus when, they were trying to pull the play calling sheet away from Malzahn. But I don't think that would have worked either because, he just got some different juice that he's just back. He's got the edge. He's got his kids now. He's got a beautiful wife. Like, I think he could just be a coach down here. He can kind of just go down the store, buy his little dip, have a brew, or I don't think he drinks anymore, but just kind of like, just fly low key, go to the store. It's not like you're in Lincoln. It's like the camera's right in your face all the time, or all this pedigree of rich history and stuff. And, that comes from decades of success, but he's good, man. There's more vibes. There's seems like a real brotherhood with the team that he put together. He brought 60 guys in. Steve Cooper was the guy that he pulled in as well. It's kind of like the offensive coordinator in title. Scott Frost is still calling plays. You can pretty much see that. And then Alex Grinch, man, I mean, that's a name. That was like the hot guy. While Scott was like the cool offensive, hot up and coming offensive coordinator, he was the DC. I think he kind of got a bad rap over at USC. You had this offense that just was kind of putting up points, but just scoring too quickly or petering out. And then he still had in Wisconsin, PFF graded. They were ranked like number 20. So he knows ball. Some of his interviews that I've seen with him, he's very cerebral. It's a younger guy, but he'll come into a post game kind of like or like a midweek presser. He's sweating. He has his water. He just got a little run in or a workout. And he's laying out like, game plan, but it's like really cerebral stuff. Like, this is what we're doing this way, and this is how we're working this in. So it's been exciting to see what he's putting together, but there's kind of like this cohesion of just like this like band of brothers is the dudes that were just like overlooked for a little bit. They were just like put in like, it's like the land of misfit toys, and they're all banding together and just like, we're going to the establishment. We're going to Central Florida. You can kind of just grind a little bit, pick us number 16. We're in the basement of the Big 12. We went to a bowl game the first year, haven't won a bowl game in 3 years, went 4-8 last year. Just keep picking against us. And this edge that they have is kind of really filling out into the team. And it's been fun to see kind of build out.
I want to talk a little bit about the offense. You mentioned Scott Frost. He's very much an offensive mastermind in a lot of ways and has his own kind of ideas on things. A lot of speed, that you typically will see with some of his teams, explosiveness that we've seen in the first 3 games this season. Maybe consistency with that is a little bit of a question as you're still getting things situated. But how aggressive, in the first 3 games have you been seeing UCF's offense, maybe especially on early downs, especially against a K-State defense that, is really struggling right now behind the chains?
Yeah, I mean, first play of scrimmage on the Thursday night, we were playing Jack State. I mean, he called it just a post route bomb, and Cam Fancher, the starting quarterback that came from Marshall and FAU, just completely whiffed like 4 or 5 yards over. And I just like shuttered my eyes. I'm like, this can't be the starter, And then Tayven Jackson just kind of comes in, and he gave him some piecemeal stuff, little dink and dunk, 5 to 10 yard passes, getting him comfortable. We don't have RJ Harvey now. He's over in Bobland over at the Denver Broncos. But he still had Miles Montgomery behind him. We brought in Jaden Nixon as well. that is a dynamic back. So there's still some running prowess. It's been interesting. It's not really, this offense this year hasn't really been more so what we remember from like UCF fast, more like, UCF like effective, that they're just kind of, let's put some pieces in that we can kind of get the chains moving. Let's make it a little bit more something that the kids can kind of put together on their game plan. It's enough, but it's like, when you're in a good rhythm when you're playing Madden or you're just playing like NCAA and you can just you feel the game flow kind of coming with just like a little dink and dunk here, just pick it up, just move the chains. He hasn't been as aggressive. I think his time in the NFL too with McVay kind of taught him some new wrinkles as well. I think his first time at Nebraska, he was just like, I'm going to outspeed you. I'm going to run the clock and I'm just going to kind of make this a thing. And it's so refreshing that it's not like, his predecessor was just like, I'm going to do the running gun. I'm just going to, do this over and over again. And if you have the athletes like at an Auburn or, you put something together like at Florida State now, you can have guys just physically outman each other on the lines. And a spot like UCF, you're going to have to rely on your skill talent and have some position groups that you can just be a little bit more nimble and get guys in space. And that's what he's been doing. I think, he'll still take a deep shot just to kind of do a little bit of a heat check. But our wide receiver room is not that deep. They're younger guys that are coming up from the D2 ranks and G5 schools as well. So I think if he's going to take advantage of K-State, I think it's going to be, first of all, you guys at home is going to be a daunting task as it is. I think the line was a little crazy too. It came out to like 7 to start out. I figured definitely 3. Now it's 5.5. I just kind of think that the bettors are thinking K-State is definitely not this bad, and they don't know what UCF is. I mean, we've played a Jack State with teams that are not – the whole team went to a different school or just got depleted in the portal. Then we played North Carolina A&T where we, like, crucified their 3 starting quarterbacks. So that was just, like, a game that doesn't even make sense. And then Bill Belichick had his girlfriend on the sideline to, like, kick off the game, and it was, like, very awkward day. You know what I mean? So it's like and they've all been at home as well. So we got to see what we get tested on the road. But – I think you're going to see a lot of run game, just kind of poking the bear, see what happens. But our line play against you guys, even if you haven't been that successful this year to start out, is definitely more experienced. And I think our offensive line, obviously with the distractions that they've had on the field, against your D line, your front seven is going to be a thing. But I also think our defense has been feasting a lot this year on the defensive line. But your offense again is the guys that they're going to protect the pocket. And Avery Johnson, has not been connecting downfield, but he's definitely had a lot of time for the games that I've seen him this year.
Well, I want to talk a little bit on the opposite side. I mean, you touched on the offensive line coach passing away. It's incredibly emotionally shaking for most teams, but a lot of teams can usually flip that and find a way to really spark the team and galvanize the team. I want to talk about that O-line. Who's really taking responsibility coaching that unit? Is it kind of a team effort on the coaching staff to kind of get somebody in there? Did they bring a GA up? And then we'll talk after that about specific players on the O-line.
Yeah, I think they brought in. So they had Alex Farrer. He was Sean Clark's hand selected guy that he brought over when he was putting together the staff. So he's kind of been his protege. He knows his scheme. I think Frost said in a presser that they're looking to maybe get some more senior help for him. So I don't know. It's one of those situations where in season it's a little bit difficult. But if it's something that he can grow into and it's an opportunity that he can thrive in, I can definitely see him taking that position. I mean, O-line play in a Scott Frost offense, you're kind of pulling and pinning guys and moving stuff. You have to be a little bit more nimble as well. And you're going, there's a lot of east-west in the Scott Frost offense. So your keys have to be on point. I was impressed, man. The North Carolina game, our O-line was moving the ball and we were running. And we were pushing the ball down the field, but it was also, they looked like a unit and cohesive. And you can kind of just tell that there was just like, all right, we're doing this for something a little bit more than us.
Who's the leader? Who's the leader in that group? I mean, I kind of want to say the name just to try to. I love saying names that are difficult to say. Is it Guard Millar?
Guard Millar is a great name just because he's a guard. No, I would say so. The offensive line, they're just kind of coming all together. We had some transfers come in from like Central Michigan. Some guys just kind of that they were just kind of coming into the mix. I would say it's Paul Rubel, 6'9" dude from Germany. He's been here for 6 years. He's kind of seen these different staffs and these different vibes. He went to media days with Scott Frost. He's taken a real liking to him as well. He's also been very flexible, moving positions. The first couple games, the entire line was just trying to figure out what the vibe was for how they wanted to tackle the year. But I would say Paul Rebel, he's very charming. He's a huge dude. You see him on campus all the time. But I think as far as an emotional thing, he was the guy that has seen where we've been, kind of what we could be. And I think he was kind of like the person that I can kind of look to this week to try to galvanize his boys and his unit and see what they can do this year.
Hey, shout out to the Germans. I'm drinking a Märzen right now. Prost.
Nice.
Quarterback position. So in the past, Scott Frost, he's favored mostly, mobile, relatively decisive quarterbacks. We saw it firsthand at K-State when we had Adrian Martinez come into the fold. Definitely, that's kind of the archetype that we think of when we think of Scott Frost quarterbacks. And they need the ability to make quick reads and RPOs. Tayven Jackson, so far, pretty impressive stats, I'll say, just looking at face value, 694 yards passing, 3 tuds and no interceptions. He's got a 70% completion percentage so far through 3 games, which is scary, pretty good there. And then you've got Jacurri Brown, who's seen some action as well, primarily as a rusher. 109 yards on 9 carries with 39 coming last week against UNC. So I'll give you a chance to talk about Brown here in a second if you have anything to say about him. But my first question is around what's stood out to you most about Tayven Jackson when it comes to his decision-making and his mobility so far?
Yeah, I mean, to start off the season, when they brought in Tayven Jackson, he started out at Tennessee, was with Mackenzie Milton under Heupel. So once Heupel kind of signed off on him, I was just like, all right, that guy knows QB play. He recruited Dylan Gabriel to come down here. He did his thing with Milton while he was still playing as well. So I was like, that's going to be the guy. Jacurri Brown was recruited by Frost at Nebraska, but he was at Miami before. And he had put some good tape in a bowl game as well. So Jacurri Brown also, he almost beat Iowa State last year on the road when, Malzahn was cycling through quarterbacks. But the year starts out, we start Cam Fancher, the guy that was at Marshall and FAU, and he had a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. So we're like, is this a thing that we're just trying to light a fire under these guys' ass in the QB room? So he starts the game. Unfortunately, Jaden Nixon doesn't grab a block. He gets lit up. And we had like a 2-hour weather delay. Tayven Jackson gets the call up for the second half. And I think it was like 7-0. We're 7-3. We're down to Jack State at home, like the Scott Frost era. It's like a game you cannot lose if you're bringing this guy back. And that second half, man, he puts up 282 yards. He goes 17 for 24 and 2 touchdowns. He connects for the game-winning, touchdown pass that he makes. So he came in. They're showing the videos of him in the locker room, and Scott Frost just goes up to him and is just like, all right, so you're starting the second half. And he's like, okay. And he just does it, man. And it was just fluid. I think he just has some poise and a calmness. He takes what the defense gives him. I think it's some good coaching. I think that 70% completion stat is a little bit gaudy because, for North Carolina A&T, there were some passes that were like beyond 10 yards that he was just not connecting. I think he almost went like 50% on those longer passes. And Scott Frost just kind of got him in a rhythm, some stuff in the backfield. Scott Frost just wants a little quick dunk, get you in space, mismatch there, and just kind of push the field down. The running backs that he kind of recruits, they're going to be burners. They're not big, bulky guys that are kind of be bruisers in between the tackles. But he's been cool, man. And then the last game, we're watching against UNC, I'm seeing him in the pocket so much. I didn't realize he kind of has wheels as well. He does an RPO fake and he pulls to the side. I think he scampers for like 15 yards to score the first touchdown against Bill Belichick's son's defense. So it was interesting, man. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then I was pretty sure that they were going to put Jacurri Brown. He's just too good of an athlete that you have to kind of pepper him into the field. Jacurri Brown is going to come in. I think more so, God forbid, another guy goes down. He's definitely the next man up. But I think in some red zone efficiencies, he can help us. Just kind of some two quarterback sets. If you have Jacurri Brown lined up as a receiver, he's a threat because he can just, he can still toss it behind the line of scrimmage. So I like the options that we have. And then the thing I like about this era with Scott Frost is like, there's not one guy that's anointed, that you are the quarterback, the portal gods got you, you have the NIL, so I have to play you. And I think that was a little bit thing that happened with the predecessor. It was just an infatuation with SEC talent, and I need to have this amount, and square peg and round hole over and over and over again. It's just like, are you playing the right guy? That was a weird thing that kind of started off The second year when we brought John Rice Plumlee, a lot of guys thought it was going to be Mikey King that went to Fresno State and is now at Michigan. And it was very weird. It was like John Rice Plumlee would get hurt, Mikey King would come in, win some big games for you, and then he'd get yanked again. So I think it's just that feeling of the guy that has the job, has the job. And right now, for the moment, Tayven's stoic chill is interesting, but I'm interested to see how it pans out when he's in Manhattan this weekend.
Well, let's talk about the running backs, and for K-State fans and Big 12 fans alike. RJ Harvey, graduated. A lot of us are thanking God because he was such a great player for UCF in his time there. But you've mentioned a couple running backs, Jaden Nixon, Miles Montgomery, guys that work really well together. It seems like that position has some good depth and guys that you can get some fresh legs out there pretty consistently through the game. Kind of a key, thinking about it from the K-State perspective. So we've really been killed by our opponents this year on the ground. We're 135th out of 136 teams in defensive efficiency against the run this year in the first 4 games, which not good. That's poo-poo, really bad. So UCF has to maybe smell a little bit of blood in the water when you see things like that. So out of the two, who do you think is maybe the more dangerous runner? And how do you see both of these guys matching up against K-State's front?
So I think when you have like a Miles Montgomery, this guy just hits holes and just goes. And it just seems like every game someone just grabs one shoelace. Like he just got his first touchdown the last game and it was really squared up within the 5. He just seems that like he just goes, man. But like if he's in the flats and you just toss it to him, he can make a juke and kind of go. I think we were spoiled with RJ Harvey last year, but he learned a lot from him as well on the back end. I think Jaden Nixon, on the other hand, he's doing our kickoff returns as well. And that he went off of that North Carolina A&T game. He had like 3 touchdowns. He had a touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a kickoff return as well. He's got some burners, dude. So I think he's got that itch to kind of just, take the top off and kind of bring one home. I'm just going to throw a wild card here just for as far as running. They all kind of have similar stats. Jacurri Brown, man, like if he could just hand it off to him, he's going to be a threat. And I think, you're going to have linebackers that are going to be like, what is this guy doing? Why is he in here now? That he could still kind of, just a little toss and kind of, freeze a guy or just take it to the house because he had a lot of rushing yards in that Iowa State game a year back ago as well. But if I were to say just, the true running backs, I would say Jaden Nixon. I just think he's itching, especially since Miles Montgomery got the start job. But they're both it's kind of like there's nobody really like us. There's studs, but there's not like the guy on this roster. And this is across a lot of position groups. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of just like, 85 guys. You know what I mean? There's not like a 93, 95 guy that's like going to just be the guy. So it's exciting to watch, but every week you just see them get a little bit better and better. But I think the running back room, against your front, it's going to come down to how these O-linemen can kind of push around. And, like I said, you guys, K-State beef is real. You know what I mean? Even though the win and loss column may not be what you guys think. As far as line play, that has been a little bit of one of our issues the last few years under the Malzahn era. And that's going to take a little time to build up as well and kind of get the bodies that Scott Frost needs to run his offense.
Well, the part of Scott Frost's offense that usually has a lot of speed, a lot of dynamic parts to it is the pass catchers. I think you got 2 receivers that are over 100 yards. You got a running back that's over 100 yards receiving as well. But Talk to me about these pass catchers. Remember last year or maybe the year before, just 2 big bodies out there. What are the wide receiver types out there, and what can K-State expect from these receivers? Is it because you said on the first play they sent that post route trying to send them deep? Is that kind of what we're expecting, that let them fly kind of offense?
Yeah, I think they're kind of fierce. I think that first play from scrimmage was kind of like a shock and awe. Like, we're back. You're just taking a shot. You're play calling. You're back in a place that you probably never thought you'd be back, and it's crazy, right? But I think these guys, they're fearless. These are guys that come up. DJ Black went to Limestone, like a D2 school. I remember like looking at these guys coming in the portal. I'm just like, what is happening here? When I was so used to like the 4-star guy coming in out of high school, and you're thinking he's going to be great, and the game day happens, like it wasn't the thing. And don't get me wrong, like Malzahn hit on a few guys, like Kobe Hudson. You had Javon Baker that got drafted by the Patriots. He's with the Eagles now. Javon Baker is our first All Big 12 guy. So there's talent in the skill positions that you have, but we never really like won anything with them. And I don't know if we're going to be that type of school that is a parachute spot for these guys that maybe if you leave the state of Florida, you want to come back and play home. You go to Oklahoma, it doesn't pan out, and you want to be back home by Orlando as a 4-star receiver. Absolutely. But I think it's a little bit part of our ethos as well to like bring these G5 guys up or just like, listen, I was underutilized, I was overlooked, and let me see what I can do in the Big 12, which, has a history of offensive prowess. And that's still exciting that, people want to play in that, and especially in the Scott Frost offense. But you got DJ Black, you got Dwayne Thomas, he's a transfer from Charlotte. Then you also had Dylan Wade, which is a tight end, was a big body. Tight end play is back in the Scott Frost offense. His predecessor, the tight end, was like the 6th alignment. And it was just like, how are we getting like these 4-star tight ends to come here? And it's just like, a tight end. And most of you guys are, all of you are K-State fans. You're like, you need that, or not K-State, Chiefs fans. You kind of need that tight end, that big body, that just like that security blanket to dink and dunk. That's what you guys did to us the last game with your stud tight end receiver that you had the last time we played it in Manhattan. So
yeah,
it'll be. I think if you stop those guys, there's some burgeoning guys that are interesting. Kylan Fox, he was a really touted 4-star recruit from Grayson High School in Georgia that there was a late push for Florida State to get like 2 years ago. And everyone thought like he was just like, all right, he's going to, sniff us and just, all right, I'll go there. But he stuck with us, man. He stuck with us, through the coaching change, and he had his first touchdown, man. And he does everything the right way, and he's dynamic. So I think if, you stop those guys, I don't know too much about your DB group, but I think Kylan Fox is someone that's interesting as well. Like I said, there's no one guy that's going to like be the person. I just think it's just kind of like pick your poison. And if a guy wants to like get hot that day, he has the opportunity to do so.
All right, we're going to pivot over to the defense and Alex Grinch. He's back. The Grinch that stole Christmas.
Love it.
Remember seeing those signs back in 2019 when he went to OU, but Alex Grinch, he is 1-2 against K-State in his time as defensive coordinator against K-State from his time at Oklahoma. But traditionally, he runs more of a 3-4 aggressive scheme, a lot of blitzes and disguises. K-State has been horrendous on 3rd and 4th down, to put it lightly, on both offense and defense, but in particular on offense. They're 122nd in the nation out of 136 teams in offensive efficiency on 3rd and 4th down. So if UCF has the ability to sustain drives, that weakness could certainly tilt the game here. So my question is, with Grinch's defense, how has it looked in terms of creating disguise and creating pressure?
He's had a lot of 4-man rushes, a few stunts. His blitzes, I don't think they've been that crazy exotic. It just are. I don't think the offenses that we faced this year necessarily had any juice. UNC was a transitioning from a quarterback in between two quarterbacks. North Carolina A&T was just outmatched, and Jack State was just kind of getting their bones. But they kind of gashed us for runs throughout the day. But I think the defense was just, again, you're kind of putting all these guys together, so it's going to take some time. But our defensive front is the only position group that has a coach that stayed over from the Malzahn era. So Kenny Martin is the D tackle coach, dynamic dude, Orlando guy. So he kind of hit it off with Frost at the beginning, and he just plugged into what Grinch was trying to do. I had Ted Roof as my D coordinator a year ago. The leaky roof, as we used to call him. He got fired like mid-season. So when I had heard of Alex Grinch, but it was kind of just like, if we're taking Scott Frost, like, you can kind of get a guy that was just like a name on the come up too. You know what I mean? At least Scott Frost, got us a conference championship, undefeated season, kind of putting us on a platform to even be having this conversation, to kind of be in the Big 12 and kind of push us up a little bit. But I think, I've been impressed with what he's called. I cannot remember a defense that hit this nasty since like O'Leary days. And O'Leary was just a straight defender. I mean, we used to have like some great linebackers that used to just crush people. I remember watching like Thursday night games against Rutgers, and just people would just get popped, And I'm watching this game on Saturday, and I'm just like, oh, these guys are like playing like a little nasty, dude. And it's so nice to see guys actually wrap up, not these arm tackles, or it was just really frustrating the last few years, because I enjoy watching defense a little bit more sometimes. You just kind of just like, at least you're getting the ball back for your squad. But I think he's been calling it good. I want to see what he does with a little bit more pedigree of opponents, and also some different locales as well, to what he dials up. I also think we've been doing a kind of very super, base level stuff. I think he said that in the offseason as well. He's just like, we're not trying to put too much into these guys' heads. We're just trying to let them play ball. And they've been doing that, man. And it's been really cool to kind of see that. The guys in the backfield have been staying home, so the defensive front can kind of push and get a little bit more aggressive. But I've been impressed, not thinking too much. Edge guys are violent. And I think the linemen rush with confidence, and there's a good cohesion and a team vibe. And I think he has a good command of that defense.
Well, let's get a little bit specific with some position groups and talk first about the defensive line. So this looks like a pretty quick group that you have, maybe a little bit undersized from a defensive line perspective, but speed we've seen this season, can really affect our quarterback in making some decisions or lack thereof in certain situations. I'm thinking about it from the K-State angle. We've been so bad on 3rd and 4th down this season. And with defensive lines, getting, a little bit of pressure and whatnot into Avery and, to our running backs and not converting on these plays. I feel like UCF may have the ability to, really kind of take advantage of our offensive line in certain situations. But, thinking about, your overall defense, do you view this defensive line as a strength? Is it a group maybe with some questions? And is there anybody that we should be looking out for on Saturday?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing a little research. I didn't realize you guys are 15-48 on 3rd down efficiency, and on 4th down, 5 for 13, which is like kind of insane when I think about it. And especially for a sound coach, that you guys usually have some pretty solid units on picking up some short yardage. But I think the defensive line, I think it's our deepest group. I think it's a mix of guys that they brought into the portal. I think if you're going to pay guys a little heftier price, I think a D-line is a good investment, just as kind of a tone setter. We lost Lee Hunter in the portal to Tech and the gas money. So that was just kind of like, how is the rest of this going to bleed out? And it kind of held, which is really nice. We had John Walker, highly rated guy. He was like our highest rated recruit at the time when he got in at the end of 2023, I believe. He was a local guy, had offers to Florida, was up there like every weekend. He's like, I'm staying home. He got injured last year, so we thought he was going to portal after he left. He came back. He's been quietly really sneaky on the D tackle and just really nasty as well. He was recruited by Kenny Martin, so that's a big thing while he stayed here as well. You got Malachi Lawrence, who's a veteran kid. Nigel Lee Kelly's a Miami transfer. So you're having P4 bodies kind of just coming into the mix that want to stay home. Sincere Edwards was a dynamic freshman for Pitt last year, and he had left. We really thought we were going to get him, kind of have this whole hometown hero thing. He came back down here, so he's back in the mix. And just kind of like off the record, he was like in the team meeting. They're like, why did you come back to Florida? Everybody gives the answer of just like, you're coming back to be closer to home, whatever. And he's like, I didn't come home to be shit. You know what I mean? So he's kind of like got that attitude and that edge that I think is like a big ethos of what UCF is. And then you got some just like quiet, humble, gentle beasts that are just like dogs and right in the grill of everybody, like a Horace Lockett from Georgia Tech. So those are the guys that are just kind of like the starters. And then you remove like RJ Jackson, Isaiah Nixon. Derek LeBlanc was a teammate of John Walker at Kissimmee High School. He went to Oklahoma and kind of parachuted down here. So it's a group that I think it's cool to kind of see a position group. I don't think we've had that in a long time. That just maybe a nickname for them will be revealed, as the season goes on or as the unit goes. But it just feels kind of special. And they're just violent, man. It's just like you see them like in the backfield. They're just going to attack, and like the ends are just crashing down. So it's fun to see, like, you have these quarterbacks that are scrambling. So against when you do that, like a K-State, the dangerous thing is this, like, is there just a little pop pass to like Jace Brown to just burn you, or like Dylan Edwards in the flats? They're just like, so connect, we kind of get to Avery, kind of have that, that meme of was that guy that's like having the war flashbacks and just like with the helmet on in the background. So if we can do that, it could be a thing, but it's going to still be a daunting task, man. I mean, he's back at home. You guys, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm interested to see how these guys step up to it.
Let's talk about the guys that might be having to like spy Avery if he ever decides to use his legs again. Let's talk about these linebackers, because it's important, because we've been running a little bit of that like RPO kind of stuff that maybe Avery uses his legs, but let's talk about those linebackers that you got on that side of the ball. Is there anybody that can deal with that athleticism? Because you said you've been running a little bit of that base defense, not showing too much, but I would imagine that first conference game, you're going to send the dogs.
Yeah, I think we sent him to Big 12 Media Days. Kelly Lawson, he was a Virginia Tech transfer. He was just dynamic. It was just like a fun interview. He was like, people got UCF number 16. He's like, I love it. And they're like, have you met any other players from different schools? And he goes, I don't want to meet them. I want to meet them when I tackle them. So it's just like, he's just a personality. Then you got Lewis Carter, another guy that we just hit from Oklahoma. We got him in the transfer portal. Through 3 games, this stat kind of stuck out to me. He's got 19 tackles and 1 sack. So that group, they pop people as well. I think it's a very nice cohesive group. They're just kind of all helping each other. Like I said, I've been impressed with Grinch, man. I heard the war stories. I saw people clowning us on socials. I saw people drop in, it was funny though. Like you're looking at like Tulane footage when he was at, the Cotton Bowl, Tulane versus USC. But he's been good, man. I think the linebacking core, they're taller dudes too that we're used to. We used to have linebackers like 5'10", 5'11", but we're getting power 4 linebackers now, like 6'2" and up. So it's interesting. These are big dudes that are just wrapping up and tackling. So I would say, definitely Lewis Carter will be someone that could probably spy him, just going on to East and West. And I think too, it's just like there's some similarities of what we do on offense. I think Avery is just a big body. He's like 6'2", to kind of take down as well. So it'll be interesting to see. I just think they got to set tones and get active. And I just hope that on the other side too, is just like, as much as these guys could have an edge and play nasty, I just kind of hope they temper emotions as well. Cause it could be, I don't want any ticky-tacky, penalties that can just pile up if you drive someone to the ground or you pop someone in a way you shouldn't. So if these guys can kind of just play their defense, be calm, and just play sound, I think it could be interesting on Saturday.
All right, last group on defense, the DBs, so safeties and corners. They're playing aggressive. They're kind of ball hawks in style, but there have been some inconsistencies just through these first 3 games. On the K-State side, we've got wide receivers like Jerron Tibbs who have flashed, but they also have dropped critical passes here. There were also short JB Bradley. So there's just been inconsistency, I think, from both position groups when you look both at the wide receivers and the DBs for UCF. So who do you think is going to win this inconsistency battle between those 2 groups? And how confident are you in UCF's DBs against a quarterback like Johnson, who likes to test those tight windows from time to time?
Yeah, I'm interested to see like them go up against power 4 bodies in a power 4 environment. We played all these games at home. A game can unfold between a wide receiver and a DB throughout the entire, there's the ebbs and flows of, all right, they're letting us play a little bit. Let's go. I think we got some guys that played young last year. With Braden Marshall, we got like an Antoine Jackson transfer from ECU. So again, like these guys that Braden Marshall was a highly touted hometown guy, 4-star guy, stayed home here, had a late push. His dream school was Auburn and still decided to stick with us here, even after Gus left. And Antoine Jackson is just guys that have just been really sound, but they got reps last year. And I think there's some juice of just like, we don't want to be like that type of lane that we were in 2024. So let's step it up a little bit. I think that's one group that could just be tested. I think the biggest thing is, how do you handle that environment? How do you handle that crowd? 11 a.m. kick is going to be different for these guys. That's a little something. I was excited. I was hoping for I'm glad that it's not I would love the night game, right? But just a night game is just a different juice for everyone in the stadium to try to get a win out of there. You know what I mean? A 2:30 game is like whatever. It's like in the afternoon. But 11 a.m. kick is like, I've been to one 11 a.m. kick. I went to go see UCF at Mizzou in 2014. And it was kind of like church for like the first like hour. You know what I mean? And then they got rowdy when they started like getting up on us. But I think it's, as long as we don't, these guys are not going to be down for this bad. You know what I mean? I just always feel like the last couple of years, UCF would always have that game where it's just like you thought you were going to turn the corner, and then the other team is down, and the other team is just like, wait a minute, we can do this? It's like KU dropped like 50 points on us and like ran all over us when we went to Lawrence, So it's like, what is your identity? And I think these guys don't want to be that anymore. And I think there's a certain edge that they want to play with. But again, it's going to be how do they handle the atmosphere? The 11 a.m. kick, I think, is going to be interesting. You guys have had a bye. Crazy stat. You got Kleiman is 2-5 after bye weeks coming out of that. So that could be an interesting thing. But I also think too, like Scott Frost kind of has some respect for these Big 12 towns. You know what I mean? Like he played in them as a coach or play as a player. And I think he has a reverence for that, which I think the guy before was just kind of just like, this isn't Jordan O'Hare. I'm used to like 90,000+. We're just like, oh, this is a nice like conference. You know what I mean? So I think he has like this reverence of just like, he even said it, after the North Carolina game, it's just like, yeah, we won, but we got to go to Manhattan. He's like, I've been a grad assistant at Manhattan. I've played at Manhattan before. Like those people are going to be rowdy. So I think it's that the DBs just have to handle the crowd properly. And I think if everyone just kind of tempers their emotions and just kind of lets a good game unfold, there's nothing ticky-tacky on either side, I think it'll be one of the better battles to see for the weekend.
All right, last position group, special teams. Is Colton Boomer still there? I mean, I think of kickers, and he is like the best name. Great name. He was there 2 years ago. I don't know if he's still at UCF, but
no, Colton Boomer went to the portal. And he ended up in Boise. He ended up in Boise State. He ended up at Boise State. A great family, good kid.
Yeah,
great family, good kid. And we were like all chips in. It was just like, all right. He won us the game at Boise too, like on his leg. I think he had like 5 field goals while we were over there. Yeah. So it's like you go to Boise, but it's like, dude, a Florida kid going to Boise, like Idaho, it's like beautiful. That's like God's country out there, And people had a blast over there. So we were just like, I think the entire fan base was just like, all right, we'll totally just, Boomer is like a hometown hero guy. Just take care of business against South Florida to open up the year. And then that did not happen, dude. And we were watching them kick Boise State's ass, and we're like on a 2-hour weather delay paying for like $25 buckets at like the college campus bar. You know what I mean? Just waiting the game out. It was just like a brutal bleeding out. But he's up in Boise State now, so I wish him the best. But I think special teams, man, it's kind of back. We had a coordinator last year, like Nick Toth. I think he's like at Eastern Tennessee State or whatever. Now he was coaching special teams and tight ends. So it's like 2 totally different spectrums, just like things that we had not had in the last few years. And he was really bad at it. But we got this guy, Pete Alomar. He's just a straight like character, man. He was Rice head coach. He's like a journeyman, like 20 years, just straight doing special teams. Our kicker, No Morellis, James Madison, UConn guy transfer. He just does enough, just kicking within the 30s. I think he's like 5 for 6 for the year. And then, we had our first kickoff return with Jaden Nixon, I think since like the war on I-4, like 2017. You know what I mean? So that happened at North Carolina A&T. So they're just good. I mean, it's solid. I don't think we'll lose a game on special teams. I am excited to see that Scott Frost lets the guys let it rip if they think they can, bring it down the field. Malzahn was just like way too conservative, just fair catch everything. So it wasn't that initial pop to kind of set things up. But I think for the most part, I mean, been solid. No one's really mixed an extra point or anything. We blocked the kick for the first game of the year, which was exciting. It was just dude just got like major ups, so. It's good. I think, if you're not talking about special teams, I feel like that's kind of like a good thing because it's like not killing you, but it's also not like what you're making your bread and butter on. So they've been solid.
Beautiful. I mean, that's really, like you said, I mean, if you're not talking special teams, they're probably doing what they're supposed to be doing. So let's get to some score predictions. If you want to knock it off first, or we can go around the horn, I'll go first if we really want to. I've got the score 35-27 Cats. I think we bounce back, boys. I think we bounce back. I think this is a Joe Jackson special. I'm going to be honest, the Florida boy, I think he gets 2 tuds. Spoiler alert for later down the road for our player prophecy. But Joe Jackson gets us 2 tuds. We win. Let's go, Cats. We're back on top. 8-point spread.
Wow. That's like wild. Well, nothing in the past 4 games makes me think that this team is going to have the effort to win this game. I think it'll be a close game. I think UCF wins 31-28. I just, you look at a lot of the things that our team is not necessarily doing great right now. Yes, you can look at the scheme. You can look at certain things. I think it's really hard to fix effort, especially 4 games in this season. I just think it's really hard to, push individuals to play harder when you have already had your backs against the wall multiple times in the first 4 games. And I just don't see this team. This team hasn't shown me enough to pick them in this type of situation. So I think UCF wins 31-28.
Dolly, who you got?
Chris Kleiman is 2-5 after bye weeks. K-State is the only team in the nation to already have 4 games decided by 6 points. They're 18-11 at home for the conference openers. And I feel like I'm walking into a buzzsaw this weekend because it's Ag Day, right? On Saturday?
Celebrate Ag Day.
Celebrate
Ag Day. A proud land grant university with your cattle and your agriculture, crops. You know what ruins crops, those? A deep freeze. Frost is blowing in from Central Florida. The Golden Knights of Central Florida. UCF 28, the Cats 24. We get our first Big 12 legacy Big 12 win on the road. We start 4-0 to start the season in the Gus Malzahn era. No, Scott Frost.
Wait, so this would be the first win against like an incumbent Big 12 team for UCF if you win
On the road.
on the road. Okay. All right. I'm also going UCF. I'm going 26-21 Knights. That 21 number for K-State, that's happened 2 times already this season. And 26 points. I think it's going to be a weird game.
You always do these scores that's like basically scoregami. I don't understand. Why can't you pick like a normal score?
2 touchdowns, 4 field goals.
Okay.
Shout out to Rodriguez, baby.
No, that's UCF. 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals. Yeah.
Whoever Colton Boomer's replacement.
Wow. Yeah, but you have to think about it this way. Like, you haven't you didn't come 2 years ago. Were you in Manhattan 2 years ago?
No, I didn't come.
No.
That's why I got the FOMO. I was like, I don't think we go up to Manhattan for a while, which I'm also glad too. It's like we get kind of a do-over because we look back at that game. We thought Avery Johnson was going to come in there. No, we just had national championship Will Howard playing the most of that game.
DJ Giddens was the
DJ Giddens was the man, and we were in there with our second string quarterback. Yeah. So, and our neurodivergent play calling from Gus Malzahn. So it's like, this is like a whole new era, dude. This is like, this will be almost like 30 years to the day when Scott Frost went to Lincoln. It was like a nasty score. It was like 38-3 came from down from Lincoln. It went to Manhattan. It was like 38-3. I don't know, man. I think he's got some juice. It's so weird that I did not think that we'd start off this way. But if we get this opportunity to just kind of run it back, I think we've nicked you guys a couple times in basketball. That's whatever. But I'd love a little football win, man. And your fans have been so chill. I was talking to Bob before. I booked this trip. I was just out and I bumped into the K-State watch party for Farmageddon overseas. And we were just kicking it. and they were just like, "Oh, you got to go to Manhattan. You got to go to Manhattan." And I'm just like looking at flights, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna book it. It was the sweetest people, man. But we're drinking Pirate Nancy, just having a good time. And I, chop it up with you guys on Twitter as well. But I'm gonna wear this what they gave me at the watch party as well. It was a little Irish,
Hey.
a little Irish. How you doing? So I don't know if it'll be good luck or bad luck, but it'll still be fun, man. I am super excited. Everyone that had gone to that first outing, they're just like, dude, the game was whatever. Take that, out of the mix. The people were a choice, and you guys are my first friends in the conference, so I totally get where they're coming from.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I don't have any further questions for you. If you've got questions or anything you want to chat with us about, the floor is yours, but we'll give you that floor before we get out of here.
Yeah, man. Well, tell UCF fans, like, you got 36 hours in Manhattan. What do they have to do? Obviously, we have to hit up Auntie May's parlor.
Yes.
Get some brews. And after that, what's the move?
No free ads.
Free ads.
There's a number of places I would recommend. I'll throw it to Matt first.
Wow, you'll throw it to me. I was on a UCF show last night, and I was talking about Manhattan, how special a place it is, and whenever I go to Manhattan, you have to get a Nancy, which you've already figured out what that is. So it's like
several.
Yeah. So Long Saloon's like one of my favorite restaurants in Manhattan. It's has my favorite burger. It's a peanut butter burger, which it's fantastic. You have that with a few Nancy's and raspberry black bean dip, and you're set. That's a great place to eat in Manhattan. It's always packed, but Aggieville with all the bars and restaurants, that's where you go. I mean, that's where you go.
Perfect.
Have a fun time. Hopefully I'll grab a drink with you at some point this weekend.
Oh, dude, for sure.
I owe you
if you're
definitely
there
a fireball shot. You got to.
If you're there for 36 hours, you're going to want to get a fancy dinner too. Go down to Points, go get bourbon and Baker's there. I mean, there's some high class people that's coming from Orlando. I mean, they got some high brows out there.
This is the Hilton night managers over here. Like, you got to like the S tier,
And then
we'll know. We'll leave a review.
Oh yeah. And brunch spot, breakfast spot, the chef always.
The chef, yeah.
The chef, baby. Let's go.
Isn't a sponsor, should be a sponsor.
Should be a sponsor. I mean, should follow me.
I've tried, have emailed.
I actually have a question for you. Because there's three people here that are Chiefs fans, and you are a Giants fan, correct?
I am.
So Sunday night was it was a train wreck on both sides, I feel like.
Yeah.
But the news today, Jackson Dart, future starting.
Russ no longer cooking.
Russ is no longer baking
dangerous.
up anything. So how do you feel as a Giants fan making the switch so early on to this kid from Ole Miss?
Dude, he just looks like a guy you just want to party with.
Yeah,
but not necessarily take over your franchise. Like
he's iced out too.
He's iced out. I think I was watching. There was a Eli Manning podcast. He's like, gave him his number. He's like, whatever you need, I could, defenses, and I'm here for you. He calls him for a reservation in the city. He's like, that's not what this is here for. If Dabble thinks that that's his guy, absolutely. But I had the same feeling when I did that tweet of like, this is my week of war with the great state of Kansas. I'm like, this is going to be the Chiefs get right game. And it was like, it was just like, just like the slump buster. Just like, all right,
well,
let's get back in the mix.
Yeah. It wasn't as much of getting it right as who got it wrong the least.
Yeah. Who got it wrong. Yeah. That was kind of a criminal scheduling from the schedulers for a Sunday night game, which I was just like, what time is this game at 1:00 today? I'm like, no, it's like the primetime Sunday night game. Yeah, I think he was dynamic in the preseason. We're due, man, for some competent QB play. It hurts when all of a sudden Indiana Jones looks like the man now. You know what I mean? That's like, I'm just chalking it up. I'm coping and just saying that it's because it's a dome, for most of his games, and like the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. But I'm so glad that guy's not on a staff for anywhere near New York City. But it'll be interesting. I would have maybe liked to see Jameis, just because it's like, I think Jameis could get you some wins. He's not going to be a franchise guy, but I think it would have been vibes. And I think it's just the whole going back and forth between him and Jameis is going to be a little weird. Yeah. If it doesn't pan out, but I'm excited. I mean, it always happens. You never see these guys; they just come out of nowhere and they can light it up. The kid's crazy though. He's got Lord
would deliver me from pick six.
I think your man lost his aura when he cut his hair.
Mm.
I think that's a true thing.
I
and
think
Swifties
being
too
a
in the mix.
dad of 3 kids, and no offense to Brittany, but she seems a bit much. So I mean, that's got to be wearing on him. It's got to be. I mean, life outside of football has got to be hell for that boy. So
they got Texas Tech now, man. I got Texas Tech. Can't do a Kermit voice, but
oh my god. I was slightly worried that you were gonna uncover some like deep tweets for this show.
No,
like
you know what?
ago.
I had one. It was Bob. I had it bookmarked. It was like the first week of college football. When we were down to Jack State. And he was just like, oh man, get this shit together. Come on, get this shit together. I was gonna pull out, but it's like, there's not like, what's the point of like piling on? And I'm just like,
no, look at it. Look at us
now.
now.
Look at you guys now. It's just kind of like, I don't know, man. There's some. I thought when the season started, I said Farmageddon would begin and end the season. I really thought whoever won that game would just be like, okay, we're getting back on it, and then you both meet in Arlington again. And it's been interesting to see how the season has been unfolding. There's been some fun stuff, and the conference has been a little bit weird as well. I think it was fun to see. I mean, Texas Tech is going to be a wagon for the next couple years to come, but dude, like that was like a beat down. I was tailgating for our game, but like a beat down in Salt Lake City, which I think is interesting. I think Houston's going to be a problem this year. Yeah. For some people. I don't know, man, but you guys are 1-3. You could start reeling them off. I think your schedule is pretty light too for the rest of the year, right?
Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor,
okay.
AU.
You got some
Utah on the road.
On the road.
How many?
Gunnyless Pokes.
Is it still? Was it 17 now straight against KU?
16. We're at 16 now.
16.
This one, yeah.
Dunzo.
It will
Stop.
It will not live to go to college.
Yeah.
Unless miracles have occurred. I've seen miracles happen.
Brother, the season just started. We're fine.
September, dog. It's September. We just all kind of chill out. UCF started 3-0 last year as well. You know what I mean? I was talking so much shit when we beat TCU. You know, we came. So, that's when we had like KFC Jefferson on our squad, and it just completely dismantled the entire season. So
yeah. We'll see, man.
It'll
be fun. We're excited to have you all coming up to Manhattan, and I was talking last night. I've been very appreciative of UCF and coming in the conference, and it's been fun to. Football has been a little bit of a struggle, but that's still not Scott Frost is bringing this energy to the program. From a basketball perspective, I mean, last year, when I watch you guys play Kansas in Orlando and you guys are beating KU, stuff like that, it's always great. Obviously we can't win in Orlando either, for basketball, but it's great to have you in the conference. And, you've been a great friend of the show. I think we can all appreciate, the rapport we've gained with you for the past couple of years.
Absolutely, brother. I can't wait. The good thing is when you guys come down here for football, our facility will be done and the lazy river will be built as well. We get that pool, baby. We get a little cabana action.
Oh, baby.
Like a 3:30 kick. You just out there with the boys, nips out, just kicking it. We'll have a good time.
Get that SPF for Bob. He needs it. That pale guy over there.
Yeah, I tan better than you do.
Hey, dude, that's what you get the cabana for. It's right there. It's chilling. Watching the day games, betting live on Hard Rock.
Chef can cook for us. At the cabana, can you bring the grill in?
Little straight hibachi.
Yeah,
I like it.
Oh man,
talk to me nice.
Well, nice. Dolly, it's been a blast having you back on. Let the Cokeheads know where they can find you. Plug whatever you got going on at Sons of UCF, Knights 247, and anywhere else you got things going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm contributing this year for Knights 24/7 with Latavius Murray, great UCF running back. Took over the site, doing some great content. Sons of UCF, I've been with them for a few years now. Mike and Brian Peterson do weekly podcasts, and they have a whole universe of content for UCF fans, and also In It Hat Brands, UCF alumni owned company. They've been really good to us and the football team with NIL and opportunities as well. So check them out. They got some good lids for the sun, and they're fun. So yeah, thank you guys again for having me. And I would look forward to maybe writing a little something or giving a recap or maybe some live tweets of Manhattan, which I'm stoked to see where you guys got your old stomping grounds.
Hell yeah. That's going to do it for us today. Once again, thanks for popping on the show, Dolly. Shout out to our sponsor, Auntie May's Parlor. If you're going to be visiting Manhattan this weekend, if you're in Manhattan already, be sure to stop by and be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. Additionally, we are the K-State representatives on the College Huddle. Give them a follow at College Huddle or visit the site, thecollegehuddle.com. And last but not least, you can follow our show at Cocaine Willie, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini. Chef.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
We are all coke and no joke Wildcat country. Let's ride.
Let Avery cook.
Let him cook.